to the fourth dimension. Have I got you there, Roland? I don't know if you can hear me yet. Part three.
Yes, I can hear you.
Excellent.
Can you
Apologies. I'll
see
just
me?
start my camera up now. See if we
Okay.
can see each other.
Uh,
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm good. Why I can't see myself? Hmm. Oh yeah, here we go. I was outside in the sunshine.
Yep,
So
nice. It's a beautiful morning, isn't it? I apologise for being a few minutes late. I've been on the tractor pushing up
oh,
piles that have been burning overnight, so got them all up and running. How's your
nice.
morning been?
Beautiful. Absolutely
Yep.
marvelous. Had a little bit of a
Yeah.
sleeping. Got up. Got up a bit early, but yeah, it's been gorgeous. Just had a shower. Hmm.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Spick and span, ready for the day.
Yes.
All right, we're onto the important business early on, and I'm keen to kind of jump into this third part of our chat. For those that are probably going to watch this one day, we've been talking about the Matrix and that in a metaphorical sense, but maybe even in a literal sense. And we're up to part three of this chat, and in our last conversation, we began to talk about the Who's, the Who, or the identities is probably another word for it, or entities might be even more accurate behind the Who
Yeah.
of the Matrix. So today,
Yes.
I'm keen to kind of explore this deeper with you and maybe get into the what's, because if we can talk about the what, it'll become a little bit more clearer, I think, for people to get their head around. But in the last couple of days, I did watch the video that you sent me, the link that you sent me, and yeah, I think there's an awareness growing out there that things aren't right and that we have human agency, and kind of an awakening needs to potentially happen to get ourselves out of the current situation. Um, do you see that, or do you think that the videos that might be circulating on social media from influencers uh, potentially could be seen as extremist by current power structures? Do you think that some of this content, kind of like, I guess, Mao's trap, the ancient Chinese emperor who invited everyone to be open and have open discourse in their society, later turned around after finding out who all of the people in his nation that were dissenters and had free thought. He then went and rounded them up and got rid of them. How do you feel
It's,
that, yeah, about that sort of stuff?
it is so true. Thinkers are probably the most dangerous to the powers. Most people critical of the environment, and they start questioning. They are the people who actually can endorse change or be a catalyst of a bigger awakening. I think it's essential that we have thinkers. Influencers, I'm not sure. Once someone become a bit too mainstream, I start a question, why is it allowed to be broadcasted as such? I found the people who are quite conclusive, and maybe I don't see them often enough. It probably give me the best hope that it's more people are aware, um, and in the same time, it always seems like it's not. Like if you look at the mainstream, um, projection of news and articles and politics, as we were talking about previously, they all have they all suggest that the norm belief it's actually okay. Um, but I believe the majority are almost quietly observing uh, the situation, and
Mm,
a lot of people agree that it's not okay. It's another
mm,
question whether they are brave enough to express their beliefs. I found in society, went out last night to see a gentleman uh, performing, and before he sung a song, he explained how he got inspired and how he got uh, sorry, inspiration to write these songs. And it was clear to me that has no clue. They,
mm,
some people have completely distorted idea. As much as they have love and compassion about people and people who suffer. He brought up the Ukraine Russian situation, and has no real insight where you can analyze this
mm.
who's the aggressor. And he was talking about who wrote this song about the bully, right? And who's the bully? And obviously, he had different ideas. My first thought came in regarding to this is the bullies are NATO. Bully is the people who forcing the change, the aggress powers to react. So almost like you're poking the bear long enough, the bear is going to have a reaction where not particularly
Yeah,
nice, you know.
I'm hearing you. So I guess one of the ways that I see this unfolding is you've got American policy that's available. Uh, if you research it, think tanks have come up with strategic plans for the US to control that region and other regions around the planet. And so these think tanks are publicly publishing documents ahead of time, and the US military industrial complex has geared itself towards those strategies that institutions or think tanks have um, proposed so that American can maintain its dominance over global economics and probably military and other things. So you have these think tanks that openly say that um, a strategy should be to provoke the enemy so that they do something terrible enough back to us that it justifies um, going in and controlling the space, and the resources and other things. So if they're openly saying that, it's horrific because I guess we are creating the jeopardy in the West. So we're bringing upon ourselves these wars so that we can potentially control resources and I think that's a diabolical situation if the West has gotten itself into that position and decided that that's the best strategy. So I guess if it's so open, if we have these think tanks or institutions which effectively institutionalize us, um,
Yeah,
then and they're openly talking about it, then really it's all in plain sight. The US and its strategic policies rest on the information that these institution think tanks provide to them. Plus, they cross-reference it with their own ISR, their own surveillance, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance type stuff, and then they formulate their tactical and strategic approaches on that. So I guess what we're talking about is now we've started to talk about the who's, and now it's crossing over into the what's, or what is it that is going on? What are these entities or identities doing? And I guess the way I'd like to start this chat, if you're open to sort of kicking off on this foot, I'd like to propose that the entities are a psychosocial aspect of where we're at as a civilization. And I'll give an example. So in our current political framework, we have aspiring politicians who may have the best intentions for, positive change in the world, but really they have to join one of the, established parties to even get any sort of, I guess, platform to be able to speak from. Yep. And so they're already compromised because that set of values that they had going into politics has to toe a party line. But it gets worse than that. So they have to toe a party line, which might go against their ethics. Maybe they're a good negotiator. Maybe they're a good liar. Maybe they're prepared to be two-faced to get ahead in that game. And so be it. That's the nature of politics. But it gets worse because these political parties in Western nations receive massive contributions from donors. Now, those donors are actually just like think tanks. Donors help to control the narrative because they're donations by the year of the politicians. So I'm just using this as one example, but while we have a donor class, while people can pay for privilege in our political system, I see that entity as being a problematic psychosocial feature of the world that we live in, and it's just one. But to me, if we would start at that point, that to me is the enemy of humankind. That sort of thing, because we want to be transparent as a civilization, and I guess we expect that of our governments. But while we have a donor class within our system, I'm not saying democracy is a bad thing, but I'm saying the donor class to democratic parties, the ones that contribute large amounts of money, may be part of the problem. Just interested in your thoughts on that side of things.
Yes, so we have to wind back the time a little bit. And I'm going to bring up an event which quite well known, and it's the Titanic accident. We know that it's three prominent figures lost their life in that situation, which was quite convenient before the decision made that the banking cartel is gonna take hegemony, what's the word? Take on power to supply funds, take over basically the financial system. These three people was opposing that idea. So the journey was to get to this meeting and basically oppose the Federal Reserve, their funds of the creation of the Federal Reserves. What is, you talk about donations, so we talk about corporations, the people or families that they've been generating their wealth years and years, not the what's the word? It's not the best way they gathered their wealth. The power structure, what they created, is eliminated um, concurrency. So it's no one actually can stand up and say, "Hold on a minute. If you do it this way, the outcome would be detrimental in the long run, etc." So donations, yeah. So where's the power structure uh, hidden behind every decision we make today's political landscape is influenced by keeping that uh, power structure imbalanced in such a way that serves the agenda. So who are
Yes.
they? So we know that the people who make these decisions in a background, they've been preparing uh, this for quite some time. Um,
Mm.
what in those videos we're watching, everybody is suggesting that these people are generating conflict to the point where we can call it World War III, right?
Mm. Mm.
Uh,
Mm. Yep.
we talked about cyclic events, things will actually repeat itself. Um, so conflict, uh, they're creating a problem, then offering a solution, and then they take power. Um,
Yes.
Humans are, in that sense, we are in this hamster wheel because our lifestyle requires us to serve these oligarchs in many ways. So we do our work, 9 to 5 jobs, uh, keeping us sedated. Uh, Obviously, our um, energy sources are being controlled by these people, and
Yep.
we know that the food is being a part of this, and they know, and we know it's obvious. So how you control um, the world is controlling society psychologically, um, food supplies, of course, and with that they offer peace.
Yes.
The
Yep.
question is, with what expense? So are the people are aware that for their peace they have to sacrifice the basic rights and freedom?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and it itself, if you think just I always struggle with words on Sunday morning. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
but if you're looking at
I'm gonna. I think I need a second coffee as well this morning, but I think I'm keeping up with you. So um, I guess they it's a simple bait and switch type situation that these masters, the puppet masters, are playing with us. You know, they offer us peace and stability and abundance, yet on the other hand, they take away our rights and freedoms very gradually, very incrementally.
yeah,
Normally, we've got the most regulations and legislation in human history now governing everything we do on this planet. Um,
correct.
so we've made a very complex system, which would obviously empower these power structures to have complex systems.
Yeah,
But they must also understand if they're, if they are the puppet masters, they would also understand that all things come to an end. Their systems, the game board, if you want to call it that they're playing, they would
yes,
understand there's turns on the game board, and that you deplete resources in one region and you win the game. Through war or attrition or whatever, however you do it, you win the game by crushing your enemy on the board. but that comes with a lot of sacrifice, as you've said. So the sacrifice comes from the people that pay for the conflict with their lives and their blood, and then on the other hand, for the victors, the populations of those countries sacrifice their freedoms and their time and even their thoughts to their their governments or the power structures that take them into war. Even though they're the victors, they've lost something. They've lost their free will. They've lost things. So that's the sacrifice you're talking about. If I'm keeping up with you.
Well, England is in, or the United Kingdom is in 7 trillion pound or dollars debt. I think it's pounds. America's about 37. That's 34 trillion.
Mm. Yeah,
Who
35 trillion. Yeah, something like that.
who are they owning that money to? You know, you try and think. So we looked at countries, and as we learned in school, look at the GDP, income, pretty easy accounting way of look at things. You know, how much is the income and output, import, export, or all that jazz.
Yes.
But in the end of the day, now we know that borders doesn't mean that the finance is controlled and stay and managed within that sphere. Um, and we knew that since we found out that the big corporations don't pay taxes, they avoid taxes, they manage to funnel funds and finances through charities or charity organizations, and they end up just siphoning and washing
Yeah.
money
Legally.
or laundering.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yep.
You try to do that with your little, I don't think you're gonna go far.
No.
Um, so so what is it? Let's clarify that the system is not supports the little man. You have to be part of a group
Yes. So,
to be able to.
yeah. Yes. And so we're starting to get very close to the WHO now.
Mm,
And I think you raised a good point in that, well, if the US, for example, owes $35 trillion, who do they owe it to? And
mm,
there's there's a lot of money missing. Okay, billions of dollars goes missing on a yearly basis
yeah,
into projects and other things that are not accounted for. So with that sort of money going missing, um, obviously there's people enriching themselves. So that's somewhere where the money's going. Someone's enriching themselves, or an entity is.
yeah,
Uh, but I guess the puppet master of our Western society in terms of money and financial systems must be the Federal Reserve, a standalone entity, uh, in the US that controls the money markets.
yeah,
Effectively, there's this very secretive board of directors that meets in certain places and decides the fate of the world because they are choosing whether they allow quantitative easing to printing money to occur. So they allow the printing of the money. The government borrows the money from them,
mm,
owes them interest on it, and gradually builds up, up to 35 trillion
yes,
dollars of debt, which now potentially is reaching that point where the interest is going to continue to grow faster than it can ever be repaid. So you go
yeah,
into in an inflation cycle that is a runaway effect. So we're now at
yes,
that stage. Everyone's acknowledging that the financial system will collapse. It's an artificial bubble. And so we're going to kick the can down the road for as long as we can because we've got enemies beating down the door and we need to print money to fight them. So I guess the Federal Reserve must sit fairly high as a who, in terms of its place on the game board. But there's definitely the opposite, or the opposing force to the Federal Reserve, which potentially could manage the money markets in a better way across the world. And it's emerging through these BRICS nations, and they will develop their own version of it. And, I guess we both have to ponder as to whether the same puppet masters will end up controlling both, kind of like both the supermarkets in Bateman's Bay. We have to wonder that, but, unpicking that would be a very challenging process. So I guess in my mind, I'm happy to put one of the who's over there as the the financial entities like the Federal Reserve and whatever they call the entity that manages the BRICS economies. So they're two who's. I guess jumping back to, we talked about some of these psychosocial who's as well. So I see, when we have a political system that is so open to financial manipulation through donors, or whatever you want to call them, the lobbyist type groups, we're never going to be able to free ourselves of these challenges like a Federal Reserve type dominant power structure. Not that there's anything wrong with a Federal Reserve type power structure if they are philosophically grounded and not morally corrupted. But in terms of these lobbyists, I see that that's one way to affect an outcome. Another way of affecting an outcome is, and it's not really talked about, but we have this Western system where you can buy shares into a company. Now, let's say it's Raytheon as an example. Large military contract provider, all sorts of weapons and sophisticated warfare systems. So a company like Raytheon, obviously they make lots of money from their contracts, but people also invest into that company. So the company is getting rewarded for bad behavior through shareholder investment. So the company, there might not be anyone sitting at the top of the company rubbing their hands together saying, I'm going to rule the world and I'm going to sell the most weapons. It's more that it's driven by the psychology of the shareholders, which demand profits on the money that they put into the company. So there's this kind of spirit within a company that's driven by the psychology of the people that have shares in that company that want a return on their investment. So it's an unseen kind of evil side of human nature that we allow shareholders to also sway these large corporations and or charity or not-for-profit organizations or non-governmental organizations. We have shareholders able to manipulate a system as well. So for me, it's like following the money. We can see where, the shareholders of large entities, by putting money into those entities, can create these diabolical outcomes. What do you think about that side of the who?
Yes. Look, you say shareholders. Often, if you look at superannuation, a lot of people don't know where their money get invested to. They have the superannuation fund and the insurance companies, where they decide, they tell you you're going to have high, medium, and low risk investments. This is the structure set up, and that is vary. So they assure you that we manage your money, which you entitled to end of your career, and then when you retire, you're gonna have some to live off, right? You can't touch that money. If you want self-managed super fund, they advise you not to, um, because it's risky. So automatically comes down to the knowledge of people. Where is my money getting invested? How much say I have where it gets invested, and whether I have any control over it. So watching the digital system coming into play, and they're trying to abolish physical money as such, which we know that it's just paper, monopoly money, because it's a fiat money, it's a fiat currency, it has no gold and silver backing. So you mentioned about BRICS. BRICS are quite opposite. They want to create a currency where it has dividends, physical wealth behind. And as we know, Africa is one of those continents where it's full of resources, and the exploitation of humanity there is extreme. As still the largest exploitation of underage labor, just people just using people's life as a commodity in that sense. And the thing is that people who actually want to make a difference, they might able to start that, get a little bit of drumming going, so people are aware, oh, someone's doing something about it, so I should be all right. I can live my life. I can just get on with my business. The problem is still the information, what's out there. It's highly controlled by these entities. So the easiest way to take away your interests of changing the world is creating micro issues and problems around your little society or your little world, where they make it difficult, or they use the media to distract you from the real issues and problems. Chaos is one of those tools that they use. Confusion, chaos, and then they provide a solution. People tricked. So what do you do? The question is, we know all these things happens. We kind of aware where these power coming from. We're still unable to hold them accountable. You see people, just $8 trillion was missing from the Pentagon. Coincidentally, that part of the office where they collected all those documents got blown up, saying the plane hit the Pentagon. I don't know if you know that. It's $8 trillion. Wasn't a they say it was, but it was no plane, so we couldn't find the wreckage. You just and some people who got interviewed, who were in the meeting at the Pentagon at the time, they suggest that was an orchestrated, obviously a targeted attack to get rid of those the evidence. So again, why is we so okay, if we cannot, like, this is so high, such a big scale, and so extreme, that almost like I'm looking at what's the solution, where we can stop this, where we can put these people on the pedestal and say, answer these questions, tell us what's going on. It's really not going to happen. So what's the solution?
Yeah. Well, we're on a quest, brother.
Mm,
So these chats are steps in a journey that is a quest for understanding. And we may never come up with a solution, but it's worth talking about so that other people that might feel like they're going crazy and suffering potentially in their own minds because they are smart and they can see what's going on. I think chats like you and I are having might just help them realize that there's actually, other people out there that see what's going on and, can talk about it and maybe offer some alternatives. And that's something that we'll talk about today, because the link that you sent me was really good in that it talks about yes, we're being controlled. However, there's ways to not be controlled by the system, and that could be as simple as helping out your neighbours,
yes.
trading your skills or produce, or
Yeah.
creating technology-free systems that are outside of those sort of controllable aspects of our society. So there's steps that we can take that gradually give us more autonomy, freedom, free will, and probably, I would argue, redundancy. And what I mean by redundancy is that I see the systems that are being built as very fragile. So yes, they have a lot of control, but it's very fragile control. There's so many moving parts, supply chains, etc., that maintain a certain quality of life for our communities, but they might have their, if we're talking about physical humans that are at the top of the Federal Reserve or these technocracy type companies and governments, yeah, they might have their bunkers underground somewhere in New Zealand or other places, but
Everywhere.
ultimately they have to live amongst people. And I think that the people that start to become aware early on, like you and I and others are, if we have systems in place that are outside of the controlled systems, and I'm not talking about anything illegal, I'm just talking about redundancy for when the lights go out, for example, because maybe our own government turns them off and says it's another country that's attacked us with a cyber attack, yet they can then control us very easily. So there could be any number of threats to the way we live, including our own government or power structures.
Yeah.
So the more little things that we can do on the side in terms of, I guess, creating redundancy and having community-based cohesion, then those problems start to fade into the distance. And the power structures that be hate that. They don't want that, I guess if they're planning a collapse of a system so they can rebuild another one through war or other things, they want to be able to emerge at the end of it and, with their wealth and other things, and continue to dominate and repopulate probably in their own image or whatever the psychopathic ideology is that they have. But the biggest threat to them is just other humans that live simply and are outside the system and don't need that system. That's the biggest threat to them. So I guess that link that you sent me talked about that side of things, and I really get excited about that side of things. And a lot of my life is geared towards not needing anyone supporting me. Or anything supporting me. Having said that, one of the core aspects of me enjoying life is community and friendship and love and creation.
Yes.
So you can't be an island, but you can set up your own systems and have a community that doesn't rely on that system. I guess that's just me spouting off for a minute, but what I guess we have now covered is we're talking about the who's, and we're talking about the what's. What are they doing? Those identities, they're doing things. They're controlling our entertainment. We're easily distracted through entertainment these days, any number of apps and things like that. They're controlling our food, as you've said. They're controlling our energy. They're controlling effectively the political system, because you can't. There's no way of entering the political system really as an independent. You've got to, if you're going to make any meaningful change, you've got to join one of the big parties. So all of these systems are tied up together. What I would like to discuss is, if we are starting to understand the who's and the what's, we're now up to the when's. So the when is, so when is all of this coming to pass? Or when would you need to have another alternative structure in place? So we're starting to get into that space of, okay, if they're doing that, we've got entities doing things. When are they doing them? Because I think we need to understand the when, and I'll just kick this off with the most basic example that I can. So the when of things is currently unfolding in Taiwan. All right. So we have some active things going on in Eastern Europe. We have some active things going on over in the Persian Gulf. But to be ahead of the curve, understanding the whens can allow you to be better prepared. So we're having a situation where it hasn't happened in Taiwan yet, but it will happen. So if you can understand, because they've told us it's going to happen, by the way, they've said it clearly, there's going to be war by 2027 with China. So I listen to them now. They tell us in the clearest possible way there's going to be war. So if we're ahead of the curve and we understand the when, Australia is going to potentially be dragged into a war with the US over chip manufacturing in Taiwan, right? So we understand a new when is going to happen. Now, that when will also bring with it conscription, because China, with an army of 1.5 million at the moment soldiers just in their army, compared to a paltry combined forces of Australia of 60,000. That's Army, Air Force, and Navy. When we're talking about just a standing active army of 1.5 million people that can be deployed across many islands and island chains just to our north, and they control the seas up in that area, we're talking about a when event that is going to drag our children and maybe even you and I into it. So, if you take the example of Ukraine, they were dragging people off the streets much older than you and I to go and fight on the front line and throwing them in vans. So what we have is a situation where the game board's been set up and we can see the players moving, and now we're starting to anticipate when they're going to move. And what I guess that should do is inform us about a strategy for moving forward with a counter to the system that will be unfolding with its agenda regardless. What do you think? What do you think about the analysis of the whens? Because I think that all of these things are connected. There's a narrative that's being built, and it's working the way they want it to work, and if we listen to them and hear them telling us we're going to war by 2027, that's only, what's that, 18 months away, potentially. That's going to change everyone's world in Australia. I know other countries are currently in war, but our world is going to change as well. So I am highly motivated to start to get this message out to people, because I don't want my son to have to go off and, you know, get blown up by a drone somewhere. I love my son, and I think if wise people can start to talk about this early on, America's told the world that they're going to be at war with China by 2027. Now, if our national government knows that, why the hell aren't we talking about that?
Mm. It has to ask the question again. It's always question time, and I actually want to ask, like the discussions should have more questions, because maybe the answers is not as clear, but if you have the right questions, people again can start to think about the right answers. China, it's look at the system of China. Look at what, again, going back in history, a question coming to my head about those buildings that they were here in, for instance, Australia quite early on. We talk about big buildings where the actual society was supposed to build those marvelous buildings. They were maybe incapable to do so, and it just doesn't make sense. And why do I bring this up? So we talk about asylums. If you look at asylums all over the world, they were everywhere. They're huge buildings, and they were housing 5 to 6, 7,000 people. We know about the power at the moment trying to put that under the rug or confuse people. More and more people come up and say, "What it is? What's going on?" We know from history that the Soviet Union came to power because the Bolsheviks had an uprising in the name of, oh, the people should have the power, and the rich should be punished. Da, da, da. But we know that a large amount of population of their own ended up in asylums or gulags and concentration camps, essentially. And these camps were deadly. Whoever went there never came back. What happened to the generation they left behind? Obviously, we're talking about fathers, mothers, grandfathers, grandmothers. The children got shipped off on trains and give it to different families to create a new society, to get us forget what was beforehand. And obviously, the best way to actually find what was happening 50, 60, 80 years ago, asking your parents, asking your grandparents, how was the time when you were living? Why is it important? I think we can see activities around building these camps in Australia as well as America, and all over the world. They call it isolation camps, right? So we see a precursor of safety precautions from the people in power. They prepare that the majority of the people, maybe 1/3 of the people of the population is going to oppose the ideas. What's the best way? You control the opposition. You make people believe that the policies and the decision made in the interest of the people to keep the safety, the peace, and prosperity in line.
Yes.
in objective.
Yeah.
Now we know that the critical thinkers are poses danger to society. They are the vetted people this idea within through the narratives that are conspiracy theorists, people who are not support of global warming or genderless society, all that stuff, and going back to the basic moral rules of nature and how God intended to be. We have to reconnect with ourselves and with nature, with Earth, and with society individually.
Mm.
I believe that things has to happen like it always did. Uh, Elimination of a large population uh, to create a new um, age, and we knew that is so all those things has been happening throughout the 20th century and coming to 21st century now. They were precursors of a larger operation, and now we see this come to the end. So you say when um, you could see that is a couple of things went down in the last few years. We almost like felt like panic from the enemy. They want to speed up the process. They want to create these situations so they can wrap up and move on. The longer they let us ponder and think and organize, the less likely that they succeed. So the
Mm.
time has to be, uh, it's a schedule, right? That has
Yes.
they're in the tight schedule. So
Yes.
the best what we could do now is delay as much as possible. It might not gonna solve the whole problem, but maybe give us opportunities to move the pieces on the chessboard and block the full intention. It's not
Yes.
gonna happen without obviously losses and sacrifices, but coming back to this, the basic idea that people should go, what's important, what is really makes the world going, and how I want to be living that life and be part of that. And
Yes.
if you manage, so the best what I'm saying is, so it's quite sad that we give our children away 8 hours a day to the government to get brainwashed, and then we accept or expect, sorry, them to be critical thinkers. It's
Mm.
hard. It's
Mm.
kids are on social media completely um, pre-programmed, and when they get certain age, they look around and says, "Dad or Mom, I don't believe you because the internet says this."
Mm.
And you
Mm.
try to teach them, educate them to be critical thinkers, to be more in touch with themselves and the decision they make. It's reflect on the society, which can be looked at in the future as a successful, uh, happy,
Well
future.
adjusted. Yeah,
Yes.
and people that are well adjusted in that future.
So, and
Yes.
then now we know that they are programming us to be comfortable. What's the future might hold? You talked about China and Taiwan. We know Taiwan is important because of the microchips and computing and AI, and that it's a huge control point to get to the next step. Now the worry is that obviously China has the freedom or um, what's the word, regulated AI progression. We know that their robotics and AI is much more advanced than what we know in the US and well, the mainstream we're talking about, and they bring it up as like, oh my God, this is a future. We have to be careful. China is a boogeyman, and as I
Yeah.
said, in the end of the day, it's all investors, money, and power and control.
Yeah.
So China, I say, oh, it's China. It's China. It is not really. If you look at the way how they transferred all the knowledge, all the manufacturing, and all the blueprints into a country which is a communist country, right?
Yeah.
So it's a contradiction to the capitalist society then when they say our secrets and our technological advance should be kept in-house and treasured and nurtured. What they did, they actually moved all that stuff to a nation which is highly controlled by a government entity,
Yes.
and they actually proven that they're able to exceed all um, progress of the West. And now they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is a problem." I'm pretty sure that's been manufactured. They knew exactly what they're doing. They know that they had to create a superpower with the region and create polarity within
Yeah.
the human, psyche. So
Yeah.
China didn't just got all these by themselves. It's been giving help. They've been giving the resources. They've been giving the blueprints, as I said. So and all the manufactured items coming from China has the capacity to um, monitor, um, obviously use as information gathering devices
Mm.
abroad of China.
Mm.
So, and funny enough, the federal government in Australia now looking at investors or companies that not involved with China. So they have a big um, what's the word? So the federal government now looking at places where we can source the general items through other means, which is going to be impossible.
Yeah.
Uh,
So they're finding alternative trading partners for our essentials at the moment.
yeah, because they say, okay, China's going to be a problem. So again, why is it so prominent? Why is it being pushed? Why is all of a sudden China? We heard Donald Trump,
Mm.
China, 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 China. Almost like you put it
Mm.
in your head that China is the boogeyman, that China is going to be this, that, another. And I don't say they're wrong, but what does it do to us? Why?
Yeah.
Question, why,
So
why, why?
yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm feeling the conditioning that's going on through the media,
Mm,
and um, as you say, as you said earlier on in the chat, the the prominent influencers are getting lots of money, and they uh, their opinions can be bought as well, just like anyone else's can. So they might be very good at explaining or articulating a subject. But you've got to look at who the sponsors are for major influencers channels. You have to do that if you're
yeah,
going to get any sort of realistic take on their position. Um,
yeah,
but I guess we've, I agree with you wholeheartedly as well about the boogeyman being China.
mm,
There's got to be some sort of enemy out there for our Western economic industry to be able to function. There would be huge companies that would collapse overnight if all the wars would have stopped. There would be thousands of people out of jobs. So
okay,
there's like an inertia that by creating these industries, that inertia is in the system. And if I was so I left the military in my 20s, and back at the time I could see that the business of war was a profitable one. I could see that as a young man. And I had some ethical decisions to make at that time. I was investing money into different things, and I could have bought shares in one of those military style tech or weapons providers. I ethically chose not to, because they make enough money just from the government investing in them, let alone shareholders. And when it's for the killing of other people, there's that ethical kind of question. So I guess, just to roll up the conversation a little bit, there's a group think that can happen, in my mind, that is the enemy. And part of the groupthink comes from investors needing, or shareholders needing, return. And the groupthink drives the entity. So that's one aspect. Then there's a groupthink around lobbying and politics. And the system is set up for a groupthink that, yes, we need to get donations and lobbyists behind us. And it's given, and it's legal, and you're allowed to do it, so people do it. So we've got these who's now that we understand on the game board, that the large Federal Reserve type entities. We've got, in my mind, we've got systems that create problems, including groupthink problems. So we've got things like the lobbyists that make donations. We've got shareholders that expect returns, and we've got institutions and think tanks that provide policy advice that might not be in our national interest. That sort of groupthink feeds its way through the system, and there might not be one person up at the top, but it's a kind of, like, if you want to call it, an evil spirit within the system, that this group think can manifest. And these, in my mind, if you were to set up these characters on a game board, they would be a little bit metaphysical, because that type of greed that comes from wanting to turn a profit, and at any cost, that to me is a metaphysical negative energy. And if enough people think in that way, you do get a manifestation of that in some way. So I guess in terms of structuring the game board, we have some who's. We have the what. We know the what. We can see it. They're taking us to war. They're going to collapse the financial system. They're going to unleash pandemics on us. So we know the what's. The when's, we're watching the when's unfold. And I've been closely watching, world geopolitical events, because they're telling us what they're going to do in advance. And that's the crazy part. You have to look around and listen to a fair bit, but there are people that will tell you what they're going to do. And the when is unfolding right now. So the when is the next big moment or flashbulb event that galvanizes society? What will that look like? It is coming. So, we could speculate and say, well, it might be the first use of a nuclear weapon since the 1940s, or it could be some cyber warfare combined with EMP attack, or something that shuts down grids. Whatever the major thing is, there will be a flashbulb event that consolidates power, puts us, in the community on the back foot, divides us, all that sort of stuff. So the when is happening. Yep.
How easy that was. We're talking about different powers, different politics, different geopolitical structures, even different ideology within these powers and countries, how easy that was to stop the world by fear mongering, and it's included every country, not just the Western, the Eastern, the South, and the people who are opposed it in power. And some African countries, they refused the WHO's recommendations, and they said, "Well, we got our own scientists. Thank you very much." Those people are dead. They're gone. They got assassinated. The people with new ideas that actually serves this society in the long run, with honest inventions, which actually would revolutionize our life in this earth, are being put under the rug, made them disappear. And we know that it is what it is. So we know that the control is one of the major aspect to this operation. Control, and how you control and where you control. You said the when it's coming. We show that we see that every steps. The war doesn't just start in one front. If you want to win a war, you're gonna have strategic points where you initiate attack, right? And that attack, it has to come through some means that we didn't expect or don't expect. And that war is obviously present within the media, the people who speak up, to unveil secrets. So the war is already on. So essentially, we are at war as of today. Maybe it's not officially called that war, but just a couple of weeks ago, China dropped aid to Gaza. I don't know if you know about that.
No, I didn't hear that. No.
I'm talking about Chinese military planes flew over Israel to drop aids to Gaza, to the Palestinians, right? And when they were doing this, they informed Israel, say, try to stop us. And these were the words, and we're going to wipe you off the planet. What is if it's not something where you play with you're on the edge of creating something big, right? It's already polarized, and we talk about China. You said China. We talk about China as one of the power we have to fear. I understand in that sense. Yeah, they are superpower. They are capable of doing things for a lot of countries unable to. But when they are getting involved, and almost like testing the ground and see where what does that do? We know that Israel is one of the hub of prophecies and religious or the faith-based ideology. The center of that, Israel has been always a pinnacle. The Second World War, the creation of Israel as a state, and acceptance that they are now a nation in that sense, which have nothing wrong with that. But what it is actually created a funnel of funds and money of creating a superpower in the Middle East, which are in bed with the Federal Reserve. We say America, but really, if you want to talk about it, we talk about the American financial system. And makes you think why, and why is Gaza, and why is these little conflicts are important. And now you see it is going to be, and it's written, it's going to be the place where, if we keep an eye on Israel, we're going to know the times, the whens. When things getting into emotion, in place, when you want to build the Solomon's Temple or David's, whatever, again, the Antichrist, they say, is going to sit in the throne, declaring that, I am the one.
Yes.
It's almost, and people think, oh no, it's all legends and all just stupid theories. But everything shows that if we understand the spiritual aspect of power and power structure, then we can see how it's get translated within our three-dimensional physical plane.
Yes.
And well, it's as important that we see who and behind puppetry. We
Yeah.
actually know that it's something more depth to it. Yeah. But my question
Yes.
would be: why do you think uh, all these? I mean, it all comes up. All these underground facilities, underground cities are exist and maintained and created, and they're banking food, and some of these places are having uh, thousands of beds and cages and almost like a prison system.
Yeah.
Why do you think it is, and where this is going to take us? Who's going to house? Who's going to be there? Like,
Yeah. So,
what is it made for?
yeah, I guess I think about that a fair bit. So it just makes sense to have an insurance policy, number one. So I don't want to overthink that part. Um,
Yeah,
so some people just have an insurance policy so their house, if their house burns down, they can rebuild it.
yeah,
So I guess the first level of it is if I had enough resources and I wanted to protect a group of people, I would, a bunker is something that is good strategically. It means that you can, you know, get away from natural events. You can get away from military ordnance blowing up around you. You can ride out solar events. So a bunker is an insurance policy. I don't necessarily subscribe to bunkers being built to withstand nuclear war, although I think that nuclear detonations are not far away. I have a feeling that that will be soon. Um, and so bunkers in those areas where nuclear detonations happen will obviously be the only safe place to be. So there'd be good reason to have a bunker, particularly if you're on in one of those nations that will be uh, along a
targeted.
contact line, a front line, for want of a better word, or a buffer zone between east and west. I think bunkers in those areas will protect life, but um, I don't see bunkers as being the answer. I think I can understand why people do it, but the reality is that there's only a certain amount of time people can live underground, and then they've got to work it out on top of the ground. You know, I guess the bunkers are a bit of a trap because you rest all of your hope and all of whatever resources you have into that space, and
Yeah,
um, uh, like I said, for a firestorm or something like that, fine, a short-term event. But if we're talking, I think we're talking about the collapse of society as we know it, right, at the
yeah,
moment. And
correct.
so let's be honest about a bunker in the collapse of society. If you're in a heavily populated area, people are going to fight to be in that bunker. It's going to be chaos, and then uh, there's going to be fighting within a bunker, particularly if society is breaking down up above. So you're going to be living under martial law within a bunker,
Mm.
and to me, that you might as well be in a prison. Um,
Yes.
so I guess I have a different view on bunkers. If I was the richest guy in the world and I built myself a bunker in Hawaii, um, I probably would just open it up to the population there. I probably wouldn't even go to it, because when the lights go out and there's only limited food, and everything comes back down to what you can contribute to a group. You're going to be if you're a millionaire with some gold bars stuck in your safe in your bunker, and enough food in your cupboard, you've got a target on your back. It doesn't matter how good you are; the human instincts will kick in, and people that don't respect you, don't trust you, are just going to take you out. So I guess in terms of bunkers, I'm not a big fan, but I understand their value in certain circumstances. I'm just conscious of the time, because we're nearly over an hour. Nearly
Over,
over.
yes, yeah.
We've gone over. I guess just to kind of wrap this one up, because we're getting into the real kind of weeds with stuff. But as an overview, we're acknowledging the who's, we're acknowledging the what's going on. We know the whens of what they've told us, and yes, technically we are at war. The West doesn't want to admit it, but Australia's been sending military hardware overseas. They're giving their support to different regimes politically, and we are well in bed with the United States, who's actively in hot wars, sending money, etc., overseas. I mean, America's bombing the Yemens. It's doing sorties across that whole region. So we are at war. So if we accept that we're in the when now, and there might be some flashbulb, what I would like to do on our next chat is talk about the whys. So the whys could include, we've talked about control and all of that sort of stuff, but the whys are all. There's other players on the board that might have whys that we haven't considered yet. So I'd be really interested in talking about that. And I guess one of the whys that we haven't talked about much, but you just alluded to, was faith. So the whys could be a very important chat, because I think we're going to get into the realm of spirituality, and especially these other religions that have a prophetic timeline. I think they are driving a groupthink psychosis as well. Whether it's real or perceived is another story, and I'm keen to discuss that with you. So the why is going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
And I guess from there, once we've put all of these things together, what I would like to do is have a solution-based chat with you, so that we can, after discussing this, try and address, well, what can we do on a daily basis? What are the practical measures that we can take? And we can throw some ideas around, and some people might like some of those ideas, some people might not like them, and can take them or leave them. It doesn't matter to me. But I think if we are able to kind of put all of these thoughts into a cohesive narrative with some solutions, then that's the beginning of the counter narrative. And I think if we do it authentically, other people might be keen to listen.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's definitely well. The problem I see that the change is always require some form of discomfort. People like to be comfortable, and the beginning of change is come with discomfort, or doing something what we don't like to do. Without that, is no growth. It's no evolution. So why? Okay, so it's true. What do you do? What's the solution? It's going to be a big conclusive chat. Ideas, yeah, I've got some. It has to. You having an investigative mind, so I believe that the best way to sort of unravel is going backwards. Look at the situation now. You know, you look at the crime scene and develop the idea why and what and when by tracing those steps backwards, and then you find out the motives, and then
Yes,
spirituality comes to place well in the beginning of this.
it does. That's
And
why it's going to be so interesting, because the intrinsic motivating forces behind a lot of this could
mm,
come down to faith and interpretation of faith. Um,
mm,
and maybe divine intervention. I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there, but there could be a time and a place and a consciousness or intelligence that we don't quite understand as well, and that might be on the game board. So the whys could be very interesting to discuss.
yes, I
Mm,
believe that we know that everyday life can produce situations where you puzzled and you can't explain. I
mm,
believe that it's more to it to life than just what we see and observe and experience in what sense. And that spirituality is it's a big part of it, and there's the essence of life. It's the macro particles. They all create that whole reality and existence. So yes,
yes. Yeah.
super important. So yeah, you can't brush it away.
No.
Spirituality, almost the basis of all happenings in life. Whether you accept it or not, it is something that it evidently happening. So yeah,
Yeah.
I would look
Yeah.
forward to discuss that. It would be a good follow up on this series, I would say.
Yeah. It will. So uh, I'll send you a link, and we'll talk about the whys on the next one. And
Mm,
I guess from my perspective, a lot of this will come down to uh, a a faith that people will only understand internally. This is not something you can give someone. It's something that must be awakened, like the sparks
correct.
and the flames that we discussed
Yeah.
before.
Yes.
And yes, and so I was just talking to my daughter the other day, and she's moved back from New Zealand and living with us, and
Yes.
just trying to find a church, a local one that she can go and join that community in. And she really struggled to find somewhere over the last couple of months because she doesn't feel like they're being authentic. Um,
No, I've been
and
there.
yeah, and so we had a really big chat about you know, your church being within you. You will
Mm,
know when you have found something divine within yourself, and then you carry it, and you are the church. So I think people maybe seek um, externally uh,
mm,
that divine spark, but really it's awakened internally. It's something that will come. It
yes.
might take certain events to happen in someone's life for them to ignite that spark and to find that. But maybe these chats will ignite some sparks in some people as well.
Truthfully, it's the people who are you're going to find that they're like-minded, or spiritually, mentally, and uh, with the view of future. They already left the churches
Mm,
for
mm,
exactly that
mm,
reason, because
mm.
you can't put your trust in people because you're gonna be always gonna be disappointed.
Mm.
With individually having a spiritual connection is the most important. Yes, find like-minded people, I find it really hard. I understand her finding a decent church, and even when you think you found it, something comes along and makes you realize that these people just are pretending to be whoever they pretended to be. And the
Yeah,
end of the day is more to it, and it's a lot of action. So
yeah,
it has to be action based, not just saying things and then do something else. And that's
yes,
where community comes into place. As you said, we have to find like-minded people, educate people, not so much tell, and, tell, tell them what to do. It's more to bring the awareness so they can do the change themselves
yes,
or make
yeah,
the change
beautiful.
themselves.
Yeah,
Mm,
I totally agree, brother. Um,
yes.
so this chat about the metaphorical matrix has jumped around a lot today. We've
Uh,
gone from geopolitics to Federal Reserves and wars in different places. But I think, in a nutshell, I see the game board a lot clearer. Um,
mm,
the matrix is the game board. That is what we're
yeah,
talking about. And so yes, there's a fractal pattern is uh, that is in everything. That
embedded,
it's in the
correct.
human body, it's in our cells, it's in the
Mm,
stars, and it's in the light, like in the laser we talked about in the first
yeah,
part. So
yeah.
we're talking about something that is uh, it's physical and it's metaphysical,
Mm,
and uh, the simplest way of me putting it is in the game board analogy, but hopefully that's working for you and for other people as we
mm.
move forward. I'm going to do a little sketch that I'll hold up and show you the game board on the next chat, just with
That's
some interesting words that might trigger some people. And I guess that's what it's all about. I'm open to discussion about it, and I by no means think I'm necessarily right about anything. I'm just keen for the chat. So
yes.
it's really good to chat with you, mate. And I
Thank
think the
you.
more we chat, the closer we get to the truth.
Yes,
Mm.
fantastic. And that's what it is. We don't use scripts. We just rumble. We just talk
Yeah,
and
yeah,
discuss things. Which so I'm always coming unprepared, and maybe it's not as appealing for some viewers, but I think that's the whole idea. So we come in here without agenda in that sense, just to discuss, brainstorm, and bring awareness, and actually just make us think about this. And then, yes, the next step, what are we going to do about it?
yeah. We're getting very close to
Mm,
the whys.
yes. Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then, yeah, like you say, some constructive action around it. So, I'm keen for that chat, brother. Let's do it.
Me too. Thanks for having me. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm enjoying it. It's good. It's a good
It's
process.
beautiful. I'm really
Mm,
enjoying it too, mate. So,
yeah.
thank you as well.
No
Cheers.
worries. Thank you.
All right. Take care,
Well,
brother.
I hope, yeah, you too.